Imagine sleeping in a cold and dirty public restroom, hugging your little son to protect him from the harsh reality of the streets. Your stomach growls with hunger. Your body latches with fatigue. But you can't afford to be weak. Now imagine that this man, years later, would become one of the most respected investors in the world. Does it seem impossible? This is the real story of Chris Gardner. In the 80s, Chris had nothing. Homeless, without money, and with no prospects, time passed as he struggled desperately to survive. Each day was a new battle for food, shelter, and a better future for his son. But how does one get out of the streets and build an empire? How a man with nothing, holding a baby in his arms, turns the tables and wins $1 million fortune? The answer is shocking. And what Chris had to face on the way will make you shiver. Few people know its true history. What the film In Search of Happiness did not tell is that his journey was even more difficult and painful than it seems. Since childhood, Chris has faced pain, abandonment, and rejection. But he never allowed circumstances to define him. His greatest fear was that his son would go through the same difficulties as him. And it was this fear that drove him. Chris could not fail, but the path he chose was extremely cruel. Chris was born in 1954 and learned early that life would not be kind to him. His father was never present. His mother, who tried to raise him alone, was in an abusive relationship. His stepfather was a cruel, violent, and controlling man. He constantly beat his mother, and Chris grew up seeing his family plunged into fear. At age 7, he ended up in a foster home. Alone, without support and affection, he learned from an early age that the world did not care for him. But your mother, despite the difficulties, always said, "You can be what you want, just need to believe and fight." These words were etched in his mind, but he had no idea how much he would have to fight. As a teenager, he decided to run away from home. "I would rather sleep in the open air than live in fear of his stepfather." To survive, I did temporary jobs, carried boxes, washed dishes, sold newspapers. Even without money to study, he loved learning. I dreamed of a better future, but did not know how to get there. So, one wrong choice almost ruined everything. Chris joined the Navy, but on leaving, he felt lost again. He needed to make money fast, and that's how he got into the sales world. One day, walking through the streets, Chris saw a man coming out of a bright red Ferrari. That scene awakened something inside him, the desire to really change his life. Without thinking twice, he approached and asked, "What do you do?" The answer was simple but transformative. "I'm a stockbroker." Chris became obsessed. He spent days researching the financial market. He discovered that it was the key to changing his life. Decided to apply for an internship. But there was a big problem. The internship was not paid. That is, he would have to work without receiving a penny. How could someone homeless survive like this? He didn't know the answer, but he knew he had no choice. He risked everything and accepted the challenge. In the first days, he felt dislocated. He did not have the same knowledge of the other candidates, nor the same experience. But he had something that few possessed, an unwavering determination. To make up for his lack of experience, Chris started studying obsessively. He spent nights reading about investments, memorizing numbers, learning strategies. He knew he needed to be better than any other intern. But life was not easy. He had no money to eat right. Often he took only water to trick the hunger. Even so, it remained firm. In the midst of all this, his son was his greatest motivation. Every time he thought about giving up, he remembered little Christopher sleeping next to him. He could not fail. And then the big opportunity came, a meeting with a millionaire investor. If I could impress him, it would guarantee a better future. With a beaten suit, and without even a fixed address, Chris went into the room and gave it all. His passion and knowledge impressed. The investor trusted him. With his first paycheck, Chris left the streets and rented a small apartment. Finally, the darkness began to fall behind. But he wanted more. He wanted to be a millionaire. He worked tirelessly. He was always the first to arrive and the last to leave. While others rested, he studied, called clients, closed deals. That's how he started to stand out. In a short time, he became one of the best-paid brokers in the company. But he didn't just want to work for someone. He wanted to build his own empire. In 1987, he made the boldest decision of his life, to open his own investment brokerage. Everyone thought he was crazy. After all, he didn't have a fortune saved or powerful partners. But he had something even more valuable, the mentality of those who never give up. The first few months were hard. Winning customers seemed impossible. But Chris didn't take no for an answer. He called hundreds of people a day. He didn't rest until a contract was closed. And then the unthinkable happened. His brokerage started to grow. In a few years, he became one of the most successful entrepreneurs on the financial market. That man who once slept in a public restroom was now doing business for millions. And the world finally knew its history. Want more real stories of overcoming and the secrets of invisible millionaires? Sign up now for the $InvDollar IBL Millionaire Dollar channel and activate the bell to not miss any story that can change your life. The next invisible millionaire could be you. Join the community that turns challenges into fortune.